All right. Well, welcome everyone to MVP Office Hours. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a consultant with Perio, and I head up the MVP Office Hours here in the U.S. Today we have some great MVPs with us to help answer administrative and dev questions. So definitely get your questions ready. Before I introduce the MVPs, just some quick ground rules for those of you who are new to MVP Office Hours. This is basically like Answers Live. So we just ask that you mute yourself if you're not talking so that we can easily hear the questions and the answers. And we will also record it so that you can listen to it later if you'd like. And you can ask your questions. If we have some dead space, you can post them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we can, and then you can raise your hand within the web meeting. So with that being said, like I said, we have some great MVPs with us today that are going to help us out. So if you could, MVPs, just give me your name. When I call on you, give me your name, who you work for, and kind of your area of expertise. So we'll start at the top of the list here alphabetically, and Jackie.
Hi everyone, this is Jackie Travieso out of South Carolina. I'm an independent contractor, generally working with small and startup businesses, and we usually concentrate on the Sales Cloud, leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, and things like that. So if you're in the South Carolina area or North Carolina in the Charlotte area, we'd love to meet up with you and maybe have some coffee and chat.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah. Marty.
Hey everyone, Marty Chang, consultant with Solemn Consulting, and I specialize in system integration with Salesforce and also application development on the Salesforce One platform.
And laying down a sick beat in his spare time. I'm just saying. Shiv.
Hey guys, I'm Shiv. I work for Groupon. I'm a Salesforce and Force.com MVP. I specialize in the admin and dev side of things, and I help lead the APAC and EMEA MVP Office Hours.
He does. Thanks, Shiv. And let's see, last but certainly never least, Steve.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Molas, calling from Boston, Massachusetts, home of your world champion, New England Patriots.
Nice. Okay. So Steve will be our color commentator today, I'm sure. All right. Awesome. Thanks, MVP.
Just to note, Pete Carroll has never attended MVP Office Hours.
Nice, nice. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and start it off. And who wants to be the first person to ask a question? Don't be shy. All right, Suzanne, you're up.
I hope it's not my phone that's making the mess. I'm calling from Hawaii.
I can hear you, so that's good.
Oh, my phone. I have a question about password policies. Our company right now has none, and we're about to change that. So I was wondering what the effect would be once I change the password policies to say never expiring. Don't even ask why that's set up that way. And the other settings, will they, as far as I know, when I tried to test it in my developer org, I didn't get any notice saying do it right away. So is this just like after 90 days, for example, everyone will have to change and then comply with the new settings as far as the minimum password length and the other settings? Does anyone know?
It's a good question. Any of the MVPs want to answer that one?
This is Jackie Travieso. They should, after you turn on that functionality, they'll get a notification that says when they need to do it. But I've never actually tested to see if they get the notification right away or if it's X number of days after you actually turn it on. I think most of the orgs I've worked in, it was already turned on.
Okay, so when I changed it in my developer org, I had no expiration either. I didn't get an immediate notification. I guess I'll wait to 90 days. So I assume that we shall see.
Yeah, that would make sense. It would be 90 days from the time that you kick it off because it wasn't it didn't have any kind of a countdown until you turned it on.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it didn't, because of the minimum password length and the complexity that it'll be changing, that it wouldn't force users right away. That I don't know. I have to assume it'll be after the time frame that I set. I guess I'll find out.
Question. I think to cover yourself, I would just send out a communication that says, here's what we're doing and here's what you need to be prepared for. And when you get the prompt is when you need to change it.
Yeah, we're going to do that. I just keep getting asked, like, will it do it right away? And I'm like, well, I don't think so. So I guess you answered that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be X number of days after you kick it off, because then logically to me that would seem like that's when it starts the countdown.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, what you could do, and this was brought up by Jeremiah on the call, is you could actually, if you wanted to enforce that right away, those new passwords, is you could essentially, after you send out a communication, you could expire all passwords, right? And then they would obviously, the next time they log in, have to comply with the new password structure that you have.
If it would only be that easy, we have centers like over in Dubai and across the world, so it would be too difficult. So I'm doing a lighter, softer way. But yes, I did think about that, but we have over 300 users, so it's not, don't want to do that.
Yeah, that would be a lot. Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I've never actually done it after the fact before, so good to know. All right, next, Tony, you have your hand raised. What's your question? Tony, you out there? Maybe you were the one I muted on accident. Well, I didn't mute you on accident, but Tony, you out there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. I think that was you I muted.
But I didn't call on my computer. I called on a landline. That's
I don't know. It's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I had a question about standard and custom report types. I have some pretty demanding users, and as I'm sure everybody does. And one of the things that they want to do, basically I work within the case management system, Service Cloud, and I've had 3 requests. One is that they want to add, they essentially want to customize the case history report to include the case owner role and the created by role. And I know I can do that in a custom report type, but my answer to them was essentially I can't customize a case history report. Is there any way outside of creating like a custom object and writing a bunch of Apex and all of that to be able to include those things in a case history report that I don't know about? An easy way?
Any of the MVPs want to take a stab at that?
I would have to get in there and play around in order to answer that. Steve actually is Mr. Report Guy, if he's still on the line. Sorry for calling you out there, Steve.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus. Could you run through the question? I kind of tuned out a little bit when you talked about Service Cloud, because Service Cloud is not an area I have a lot of hands-on with, but I mean, I do have some experience with reports and custom report types, and they are a unique breed of cat. So could you give me a quick rundown again of the reporting aspect of the problem?
Yeah, essentially what they want to be able to do is they want to be able to add the case owner role and the created by role to a case history report. So, translate that into whatever, into Sales Cloud, to an account history report. And I know that that's a standard report type and you can't customize that.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, is there something that, before I go back to them and go, nope, can't do it, and, they find out differently, is there some, other than, I'm sure we could create a custom object and write a bunch of Apex that every time something's changed, you can put it in that custom object and then report on that. But outside of that nonsense, is there a way? Because the other thing they want to do is they want to add the age field, which is not really a field, to a custom report type, which I told them, make Excel do it. It's really easy.
Yeah, I have built, homegrown age and duration formula fields
Right.
specifically for CRTs.
And I did offer that. I'm like, look, I could build a custom formula field, but that seems ridiculous when Excel can do the calculation for you.
So they want to be able to pull in the contact role, and it's going to have a history. Almost, I'm envisioning like an opportunity history report where like any change to a key stage is cataloged.
But they want to know. But they want to pull in the opportunity owner. If you want to take it to opportunities, the opportunity owner role name, like from their user profile.
Oh, the owner role name. With a CRT, you can do fields related by lookup and pull in user detail level stuff into the CRT.
But not with a case history report, because a case history is not custom. It's a standard Salesforce report.
Yeah. Let me think. Can you do a historical trending report on the case object? Let me fire up my dev log.
You should be able to, yeah.
That might be if anything saves you bacon as far as doing this in a CRT, that might be it. Using historical trending on cases, because a historical trending report at its core is a CRT, and so historical trending on cases is a possibility. Custom report types. Create report types. I have one with cases anyway. Oh, cases with historical trending. I already got one of them. And so you want to do the case owner role.
Yes.
All right?
And yes, and the created by role.
And the created by role.
Hey, Tony, while Steve's working on it, can I just ask again, what did you say that you don't want to create a formula field to just pull this information in?
Owner case created
well, even if I do that, I can't pull it into the case history report. That's the whole problem, is I can't customize the case history report, the standard case history report.
Yeah, so I would say you could either go down what Steve's saying there with to try to set that up with historical trending, or you create custom formula fields, right, that would automatically add to that standard report type.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So if I
got good news for you.
Okay. All right, that's good.
Ball's on the 1 yard line. There's the snap, and it's picked off by Steve Moe with a custom report type. I was able to do a add fields related via lookup. So in the case object, select add fields via lookup, and from that you're able to select the case owner and get pretty much any field on the user object from the case owner, and you can do the same thing with created by. And you have yourself a case historical trending report.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Some of the other admins might want to check the air pressure on my CRT, but I think it's legit.
Also, Tony, I'm at least like for me, I'm able to add custom fields, formula fields to the standard case history report. I assume that you find in the support reports folder. So maybe there's something different in your org or with your particular field.
No, honestly, I hadn't even thought of the idea that if I added a custom field, it would automatically show up on that standard report type. So that's exactly what I needed as well. So I can do it 2 different ways. That's perfect. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
This is Steve again. I would go down that road. Don't even bother with a CRT unless you need some specific aspect of a CRT, because by leveraging a standard report type, now every time you add a custom field, there it is.
Right.
You don't get stuck in that, forever tied to create a custom field, update every custom report type that references that object. Go with a couple of cross object formula text fields, and you should be good to go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Jared, are you still there?
Oh, sorry guys. Cardinal sin. I was on mute. No wonder nobody could hear me. All right. So the next person who had our hand raised was Kafai. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said that right. It's Kotai.
Okay. Yeah. What's your question?
I have a question regarding Lightning Connect. I'm trying to test it and see what it can and cannot do for us. So I created a developer org, and I can see the OData connector and the external data source. And I also found a public OData service. I think it's called Northwind, and there was a URL in there, and I can see it looks like a Visto. And I copied that the URL and put it in there just like the documentation says. But when I say save, it gives me an internal server exception and doesn't really tell me what the error is. I put in the remote site settings in there. I can't think of any other way on how I can debug this. So if you guys have any ideas on how I can move forward, it's kind of like a roadblock. I have no more ideas.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah. Sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sure. Sure. This is Sheriff. Tested out the same OData protocol service that was part of the example. I think. Did you try it out with authentication at all? Because it for me, it did import the external objects. So I'm just going to check what I did. Hold on. But I think I think the services URL, if you put it in and if you put the identity type as anonymous and authentication protocol is no authentication, it should work.
I did.
It's a sample service.
Those are the settings that I had. Those are the exact settings that I had.
Okay. And did you have the format as AtomPub?
Yes, I did.
Wow. I'm not sure why it shouldn't be working for you, because once you have that setting up and routed and sync, it should actually get the services up. I'm just going to ping the URL to Jared just to make sure that it's the same URL that you're using. But if it's still, there's no proper debugging for that yet, I'm afraid. If it doesn't come out to you yet, I think you should probably contact support for that, unless any of the other MVPs have any thoughts to that.
Okay. Do you know if support will answer my questions if it's on my developer org?
I didn't guess that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Are you a Salesforce customer?
Yeah, actually we are, and I have access to create tickets, and we are on an unlimited edition, so probably I could use my company.
Yeah, they'll definitely support you as long as you're a Salesforce customer.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. And
And to add to
make
that,
sure
I
that you
believe,
mention. Go ahead, Jackie.
thank you. I believe that you can only submit a case through your production org. I don't believe you can submit one through a dev org. At least I have never been able to do that.
Okay, and I have permissions to create cases from our production org, so I'd go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll just give them your org ID for your DE org.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And a workaround that I found for my DevOrg is I created a custom domain, and once you have that, I don't know, Salesforce lets you submit cases through the DevOrg, so try that out too.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. So our next person up was Melissa Van Dyke. Melissa, what's your question?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, great, thanks. So I don't know, can we ask questions about triggers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So I'm writing first trigger, and I got it to work, which is great, but now I want to, of course, make it more fancy. So I'm I'm grabbing and doing a roll-up field from account to from the children to the account. It's not a master detail relationship. And I got it to update a count of records into a field on the account, which is great. But now I want to do a sum, and I'm having a hard time realizing where I tell it to do the sum. And I don't know if you guys just have a really good example. I've been searching the community, and I just can't find the perfect example that does this scenario.
So just a question, are you trying to do the roll-up just for trying out it with the trigger, or is it for a business case? If so, you can use one of the AppExchange apps, the roll-up helper, which does not even need code.
I know, but I think that one only gives me 3. The roll-up. I think I'm limited unless I buy it. Right?
Yep. I don't know if there's a limit, but there's definitely limits on scheduling the roll-ups. But yeah. But otherwise, I think you still have to do a loop in your trigger to get this rolling. But apart from that, one of the best practices, make sure if there's a filter that's pretty much better. Apart from that, I'm blanking out if there's anything straight away you can do.
This is Steve. I've never deployed it, but Andy Fawcett has an app on his website, Andy in the Cloud, called Declarative Rollup that you might want to take a look at.
Okay.
I actually have used that app, and I think it works really well. It requires you to know a little bit more of the API names of different fields, but you don't actually have to write any code. And as far as I can tell, I think it does the same thing that Rollup Helper does.
Okay, great. I'll check that out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I also posted a link in the chat where you can, if you wanted to do using flows and headless flows and process builder. So, all right. Next person up was Sarah Acosta. Sarah, what's your question?
Hi. Well, I just had a request from a user. They want to view an opportunity report, but they only want to see the highest earning revenue and the lowest in the average. And because the report is too large to look obviously at all of them. Is there a way to do that? I know you can do a metric report into the average, but I wasn't sure. I haven't looked into it too much about to just show the max and the minimum.
Could this is Steve. Could you describe what you envision the report looking like? So the way you described it to me, it sounds like you want the report to include, all the opportunities within a specific range, but then you only want to highlight or display the min and max.
In the average, yes.
Min,
exactly.
max, average.
So he was thinking, hoping he could see it in a bar graph. But even if I could pull in just to highlight the min and max in a metric, I would do that.
Oh, in a metric or a matrix?
A metric, like on the dashboard.
Oh, a dashboard
like the dashboard
metric.
component. Yes, I would do that. I was able to do it for the average, but I didn't see how to do it. An option to show just the max and just the min. But she was requesting to see it on a bar graph.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience doing that with the metric component.
Is it possible to do it with a bar graph?
I think you might, because in theory they're all the same data type. You know, they're all a currency amount.
Right.
I'm just in my mind's eye, I'm trying to figure out what this bar graph would look like. So, like, would it be broken up by account or by opportunity owner?
It would be by opportunity. I'm looking at the assets from the opportunity, the earned revenue. So it would show the asset with the highest revenue, the asset with the lowest, and then the average of all of them.
Oh, so you're pulling in the name of the asset with the...
Right. It's a number, but yeah. So he's only wanting to see those three on the graph. And I thought, well, I've never done that before, but let me see if I can figure it out.
Yeah.
It was a unique request.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be doable. It's just it's one of those things. You know, with dashboards, it's really tough to like wrap your head around them without having something to look at. Like either being able to look at the source report and being able to say, all right, this is how the data is grouped. This is what I got to work with, and having like a target to shoot for, like. All right, here's a pie chart. This is what I want it to look like, and I want the wedges to be this number, and I want do you have a report that you're working with that you could post somewhere, like either in the MVP office hours group on the community? And if your report isn't anywhere near what you want the output to be. What sometimes I tell my users if they have a report request is just export a printable view into Excel.
Mm-hmm.
In Excel, just manually type in the numbers that you want in the cells that you want them to be in, and then send me that. So it's like, okay, that's my target. That's what I'm, Yeah, I mean,
I know, it's kind of unique. He just asked me this yesterday. So, but yeah, he just basically wanted to see three bars.
They didn't do you any favors, but did they request a metric component?
No, I was just playing around trying to figure out how I was going to display that, and I saw, easily I could pull the average in a metric just underneath the bar graph report, but I can't do the max or the min.
Yeah.
So,
my opinion, at least from my experience, metric seems to be like the most limited of all dashboard component types.
Right. I was just thinking, okay, well maybe I could show all of them on the graph, the bar graph, because we have a lot, and then underneath I could just highlight those three. Is what I was thinking. But I didn't see an option, so I'll play around with it in Excel and see. It sounds like it would be easy to do, but
post something in the MVP group, in the MVP office hours group, and we can take a look at it, and it's one of those things where like maybe seeing it, it's like, okay, it sounds feasible, but then when you look at it, it's like, oh, this is a deal breaker for any number of reasons, or it just
And it might not be possible, is what I'm thinking, because I have so many. So, how do you tell it's just to pull out the highest, earned revenue and the lowest and the average? I don't know if you can. So I'll send it in the group.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
This is David Chung. I'm wondering if a workaround might be, it's kind of a complicated workaround, but maybe to use analytic snapshots and have 3 reports, one to do the max, one to do the min, one to do the average, and throw those into as data points in the analytic snapshot, and then do reports on that. Do the metric reports on that on the dashboard.
I haven't thought of doing that. I haven't done too much with the snapshots, but I'll give that a try. Yeah, that might be a workaround. I don't think we're going to be able to do it on a bar graph. I have a feeling that's what you guys are going to tell me once you see it. But I'll try that.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Our next person with their hand raised is Jeff Fontes. Jeff, what's your question?
Hey, so I have a question about person accounts. So I started getting involved with our Salesforce environment a few months ago, and one of the things what we have is we have a lot of, right now we don't have person accounts, but we have two groups kind of using Salesforce. We have our salespeople that target just B2B customers, and then we also have a call center that receives calls from all different types of customers, including B2C customers. And we actually had set up, before I started here, a trigger that assigns all new inquiries that we get through our website to one particular account in our implementation, and that account now has like 17,000 contact records associated with it, which is, we're seeing a performance hit when people go to open the account because of all the related lists. And this is also one of the big stumbling blocks that I'm having in terms of figuring out a way to get us to person accounts, is how to figure out what to do with all these contacts under this one account. And I was just wondering if anyone had some good suggestions in terms of figuring out how to assign these contacts either to existing accounts if they belong under existing accounts, creating new accounts if there are new customers for a new account that we don't have in the system yet, or if they would be best off as new person accounts. Obviously, I think a lot of that work, you would kind of have to have some internal knowledge of how our implementation is set up and what information I have to work with. But I've been looking particularly at like the email domain that a contact would have associated with them or something like that. So I didn't know if there was any good suggestions out there for that.
Any of the MVPs want to?
Was that John who asked the question?
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff. Sorry about that. It sounds like if you're doing B2B and B2C, turning on person accounts could make sense, and you can make it so that your B2C customer or your B2B users don't have to see the person account record type, so they don't accidentally create person accounts. With that said, are you using any third-party apps off the App Exchange right now?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Because there are some companies who, some vendors on the App Exchange who don't like to work with person accounts, that could influence your decision whether or not you want to turn on the feature. At this time, I don't believe you can turn off person accounts once it's turned on. So it is a irreversible move. But in many cases where companies do mix B2B and B2C, it certainly makes sense.
Great.
I guess in terms of what to do with your, you essentially would have a data migration with the 17,000 records that you have. You would take them and essentially take those records. And I'm trying to think through what you would have to do. I think you would probably need to manually reparent the records, because I don't think you can merge non-person accounts with person accounts. And you also wouldn't be able to merge the standard, the regular business contact with a contact record for a person account. So I think that would be a consideration if you were to do a migration from your existing model to the person account model. Mm-hmm. Alternatively, as well, I guess there are, similar to person accounts, you can set up a essentially one-to-one account contact relationship. That's certainly doable. You would essentially get kind of the same idea as what you would have with a person account. Just in that case, you would, instead of having to do a troublesome data migration and data merge, you'd be able to leverage standard Salesforce merge functionality. Or you don't even have to merge, I guess. You just have to create new accounts and then reparent your contact records.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of my thoughts, and I've in my implementations I've gone all three different ways. Usability-wise, doing something with person accounts definitely makes it easier to deal with one single record. You get a lot more functionality out of the box, but for a lot of other customers who've kind of, for their B2C customers anyway, have chosen to keep most of their data on the contact record, you can get pretty much a PAR functionality just by doing one account to one contact.
Okay. In terms of reparenting, do you have any suggestions for like kind of like smart reparenting? So like if there was, and I know this is like one of those situations where like you don't know the information that I have in like all the fields that we have set up, but have you had any experience with that in terms of like looking at the data that you have available for particular records and seeing if there's any kind of formula you can use to parent them to an already existing account? Does that make sense?
Sorry, I had to take myself off mute.
No
Can you clarify the 17,000 contacts? Are those individuals? Like, why would you want to reparent them to another account? I guess maybe I didn't quite follow that part.
Okay, so let's say one of our accounts is like Siemens, right? And we have contacts under that Siemens account, but they may have also like called in through our website or like went onto our website and created a case that way. The trigger could have potentially created them as a contact under a separate account. So I'm just thinking in terms of like not in terms of like data integrity and having that person, that contact record actually exist in the right spot. Some of these 17,000 records might best belong, somewhere else. And I just didn't know if there was like any formulas or things you might have had experience with in the past that would help kind of ease transitioning them, if that made sense.
Yeah, sure. Jeff, I think my recommendation and thought on that is I would separate those into two different projects. It sounds like what you have today is a data integrity problem, and companies usually can invest some time first to clean up their data before they undergo a migration. So for purposes of switching to a one-to-one account contact model, person accounts or otherwise, I would start there with the assumption that everything under this bucket account you have today are individuals. So for you to get to that state where you can make that assumption, that would be a data cleanup project.
Okay.
And you can use, I think there are tools out there, I haven't personally used it, but lots of people have said good things about demand tools that can help you kind of more easily identify potential duplicates using fuzzy logic.
Okay.
But whatever the tool and mode, definitely going through that initial data cleanup would be a prerequisite for doing the migration.
Great. So your suggestion would be clean up, figure out what's going on with this account first, like create, the one-to-one contact to account piece first before pursuing person accounts and switching. That might be the best way to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is David. This is David Chang. Excuse me. Nonprofits face this problem all the time, and most of them do use the one-to-one account to contact. I almost never use person accounts because of the incompatibilities, the possible incompatibilities.
Okay. Great. Well, this gives me a great start, so thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Jeff,
Yeah.
This is Jackie Turbia. So I'm going to throw out one more name for you in addition to everything that everyone has said here. Jeff May, who is also an MVP, I know has a lot of experience with person contacts. He and I had a conversation probably a year ago, and he would be somebody too that I would tap in addition to Marty and some of the others, because he might give you some other perspectives too on going through that whole data migration and some changes.
Great.
So
could
Jeff
you give me
May.
that name again?
Yeah, Jeff May, M-A-Y.
Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks all. All right. We don't have any hands raised, but we do have a question in the chat from Squire. So let's see. Oh, okay. Squire, do you just want to kind of throw out your question there?
Yeah, I mean, and it's really just I'm primarily an admin and developer for Salesforce. No other technologies come across my desk right now. I'm looking to invest in the next laptop for my work, and I can't decide whether I should go MacBook Pro or Air or Surface. There's a lot of pluses and minuses to all those. I'm just wondering if there's a standard mentality like, yeah, you just want a MacBook, you should just go that way, and just asking for opinion more than anything.
I can give you an opinion. My opinion is if you have the option to use a Mac and your company is not a heavy Microsoft user, definitely go for it. I prefer Macs, but in my case, my company has a pretty nice deployment of SharePoint, and the SharePoint integration is much, much better on Windows. So my current computer is Windows, and that's fine too. But if you don't have that constraint, I would go with a Mac.
Thanks.
You might also want to pose that question to the community for those users who use Mac versus Windows. And the reason that I say that is because in the last few months, I have seen questions about functionality. I don't recall if it was specifically Salesforce.com related functionality or if it was something else. But I think I would pose that question to the community at large and see what kind of responses that you get as well.
Yeah, and I have, and the challenge I'm getting is that you get the best responses as far as that type of question on success, but I really need the response from the developer or the Stack Exchange kind of mentality. I really need the heavy coders because, your average, everybody can run Chrome and do your admin type tools. So I was really hoping that was kind of, Steve, that was you commenting on the MacBook, right?
I think that was Marty.
Yeah, that was Marty. I'm a PC guy.
All right.
I mean, that would be one thing. I don't have any Apple products except for an iPad. I don't know. I haven't seen any people with questions about issues related to things like Force.com, IDE, or any of the heavier development tools. Most of the stuff I see in the community popping up revolves around stuff like Lexi Loader and Outlook integration and stuff like that. But there's plenty of web-based, tools that can do everything that the Data Loader and Lexi Loader can do, like Data Loader I/O and Jitterbit and stuff like that. That would be my. And again, that would be a case to throw it out there to the community because. If anybody has run into a problem using some of the heavier development tools on a Mac, they would know about it and give you their 2 cents. And if there's a workaround to those issues, they'll be able to tell you what to do and how to get around it.
All right. Thanks.
I'm not an MVP. This is Jeff, but I would say if you're comfortable at the command line, the Mac makes a lot of the kind of GNU command line tools much more readily available than Windows does. So if that's a factor at all, I know that's been helpful for me in doing stuff. So.
As far as command line access to Git or what? Where you?
Yeah, even the Force. There's a Force command line tool which is actually really cool. It runs on Windows and Mac, but and just anything that. That's one thing, but just kind of having the whole library of tools that you get from a Unix command line is available on a Mac, whereas it's not as easily accessible on a PC. You can install that stuff, but it's not out of the box.
All right.
So just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say, this is Jared. I've been on both sides of the fence. At my last job, it was a PC shop, and that, it was a Lenovo, I think is what I had, and that worked fine. I was able to do everything from an admin developer standpoint that I needed to, but now I'm at more of Apereo has Macs and PCs, but we're not definitely tied to Microsoft products, so to say. So I chose a Mac, and I personally love it. I like it actually a lot more than I did my PC, and there's a little bit more things I feel like I can do within my Mac than the PC. But yeah, personally, I think it kind of comes down to personal preference, really. But
yeah, that's the hardest part. Is I've been a PC guy my whole life, but I see MacBooks at every Dreamforce and every UserCon and it just seems like that's the developer tool of choice. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to drop $1,000 on a PC, I should go with the best possible tool for where I want my career to go. And so it sounds like Mac might be my choice.
Squire, just to leave you one more thing. If you're gonna, I would recommend you join the Salesforce channel on Freenode. Do you use IRC at all?
I don't, but that doesn't mean I can't start.
Yeah, I would recommend you just check out that. It's the Salesforce channel on Freenode. You can ask your question again there. I think a lot more developers hang out in that room.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we have like 11 minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions they want to throw out to the MVPs?
I have a question. This is
Yeah,
Sue.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm having an issue, and I don't know if this is the right forum for it, but I can't get my data export. And it's been like since the 1st of the month of January. I opened a case with Salesforce, and that's been going on for, I don't know, the usual 10 days of back and forth. And has anyone ever experienced that where you get the link, you click on it, it's like, hey, your export is going to be ready the following week? This community, Salesforce support is so far unable to help, and although they've escalated it, I've had this happen before, and I'm just curious if anyone else has.
This is Steve. So are you using the weekly data export that's available in Enterprise Edition, and you have it scheduled to run each week, and you're clicking on the email?
Yes.
And when are you clicking on the email in relation to the export running?
When I get the email.
Really? Because
I know.
The data files, I've never run into an issue where the data files haven't been out there for the full, 48, 72 hours after they run? There have even been times when I think I've been a little bit outside the window, like a holiday weekend or something like that, and the data is still out there. It's only when I go way past the window that those... Are you saying that the links are dead? Like there's no you click on the link and you're in your
Well, I get the page that says your export is queued and it's the date for the following week. So the email that I get, which is supposed to be the one that I'm supposed to access, has already said, "Nah, you're getting one next week," and this has been going on for over a month. And I have it in Salesforce. I've opened a case with Salesforce. To no avail, and I was just curious if anyone else has had this problem, or do you think it's possibly caused by the fact that we have probably the most integrations into a Salesforce org that I've ever seen in my life? I just can't get an answer, and Salesforce themselves seem unable to help, and I'm at my wit's end.
And okay, did this work up to a point and then it broke?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that the export was at least set up the right way once.
Yeah, it's worked for, I don't know, a few years. It's done this before, and then, after much back and forth with Salesforce support, they come out and say, oh, there may have been a problem. And I don't know if it's related to the fact that we are on the NA2 instance, which I know is getting split in April. I just don't have an answer, and neither do they. So if no one else has experienced it, then I'm going to assume there's some kind of database tension going on that is beyond my...
I'm on NA2 myself, and I've never had that happen. The only time I've ever clicked on the email and been brought to essentially blank screen that just says, I just clicked on it, next scheduled export, 2/9/2015, 12 a.m.
Right.
The only time that ever happened is way after the 48-hour window has expired.
Right. So I don't know if it's just somehow it's taking forever to process, and it's one of those ships passing in the night things where
How
the
big
link,
is your export typically? How many files do you have to download?
usually 3.
Really? I mean, I export 4, and one of them is barely 10 meg.
Ours are about 500.
I've got 3 full ones, whatever it is, 512 meg, and then one that's just like 10 meg. I got another org. They've got like 40, 50 export files every week.
So I guess there's no answer because.
So it's not a size thing. It's not an instance thing.
No, it used to work. It just hasn't since.
Can I ask a really quick question?
Yeah.
We had a situation where something about because those addresses are those kind of blind Salesforce addresses, they were being held up by the exchange, and so you were actually getting them days after the actual mail came in.
Oh, good catch. Hey, when do you get the email in relation to the schedule of the export?
Let's see. It's usually my supervisor that forwards it to me, which we're trying to change that too. He'll get it on Sunday. I check my email all the time. I will either decide to do the download right then and there, or I'll do it on Monday. Knowing I usually have 48 hours. And
but here's the thing. When did the export run? Like if you're in your org right now, when is your next scheduled export to run? What time, what day of the week?
All right, can I look that up in the setup, like where the normal data management stuff?
Go to the data export. It should tell you when your next scheduled export is due to run.
Scheduled 2/9/2015 at 1 a.m.
Okay, so 1 o'clock in the morning on, I don't have a calendar handy, Sunday night, Monday night?
Yeah, and we're on Pacific time.
Okay, but we're not talking about a gap of days or several days. We're talking about a gap of hours. So so your export is due to run
on the 9th at 1 a.m. Pacific,
9th.
I guess.
Okay, so that means that your last one ran on Monday at 1 in the morning. When did you finally open that email this week?
Let's see. I think that the last I got one was it Monday. I don't keep these because they don't work.
I know, but okay, but I think what Marty was inferring and what I'm getting towards is, could there be a gap between you actually getting the email and the export running that is more than the 48 hours allowed?
Right, like if it ran on Monday at 1 last week, but you didn't try to get it till Wednesday, it would have been past your 48-hour window.
Exactly. So the chain of events could be export runs as scheduled, as advertised, email gets kicked off, it gets held up in exchange, your boss finally gets it, your boss finally forwards it to you, now you've got the email, but the ship has already sailed. 48 hours.
So our exchange itself, we're on a cloud-based exchange. You think that
the technology doesn't really matter here. It's the time. When did the backup run? When did the export run? When did you get that email and open it? That's the smoking gun. Technology doesn't really matter at this point.
From your boss, too. You could also put all those in line as well.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm trying to do is, and again, this has always worked. Like, he immediately forwards to me the email when he gets it. You're saying he gets the email after the ship has sailed?
Or no, you get it after the ship has sailed.
You mean because he forwards it to me too late?
Anything. Like when? Okay, we know that your backup runs, your extract runs on Monday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning. When did you get the email with the link?
Yeah, I'd have to wait for the next one to not work to see that.
Well, do you have a vague recollection of when this week it was? Was it Wednesday? Was it Thursday? Was it Tuesday?
I think I got the last email about your export is ready on Tuesday.
Okay, so that's should be within 48 hours. So okay, so that would kind of, in theory, rule out it being a lag between backup and you getting the email and opening the email. Now to put a nail in that coffin, you need to redo this. We need to check next week. Mark down when you got that email, and did it work or did it not work? And if it's well within the 48 hours, then we know for a fact that there is something in your weekly export that is broken. We can now we can say, yeah, the email chain of command is not the problem. It is the weekly export. Something broke it.
So has anyone had this problem? Because I did actually forward or copy and paste the email into my still open case with, we have basic support, so I don't know if anyone else does. It's not very helpful. I could look up that email, I suppose. I get where you guys are going, but I don't understand why it would suddenly break unless it's something on the end, something going on with Salesforce. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this has happened to us before, and it just takes long for them to say, well, it was us. Somehow something went awry with Salesforce. And again, I don't even have the option to export now, which I also do not understand. I am system administrator. And it's like, did we ever schedule
saying the export now button is not even an option for you?
It's grayed out.
All right. To attack this on two fronts, either you've got to get that access, or the person who has that access, it needs to be put on them. The next time a backup runs, they've got to do the export or try to and see if it fails for them. If the person who is authorized to download the export is unable to download the export, I would say even the most glasses half full optimist would have to say that the export process on your org is broken.
Okay, so because I have credentials to log in as my boss,
okay,
I also cannot export now.
You can't export now?
No. Under either user.
Who has the ability to export now?
No one.
That's crazy. So I have the ability to export now.
I'm with you. Believe me, I understand. I'm looking at it now.
Are there more than one admin on this org?
There are two, and I have the credentials to log in as either user.
And you're using a standard, plain vanilla, off-the-shelf system admin profile. You're not using a system admin profile that was cloned or created.
Right. The box, garden variety system administrator with all the bells and whistles that it comes with. I didn't clone anything. And neither
on the bright side, you are building a stronger and stronger case with each of these pieces of information. You are building a stronger and stronger case to bring to Salesforce and say it is broken. Okay. Now, I'd be a lot more confident in that case if we can rule out every other scenario. Because the last thing you want to do is have something broken. You bring your case to support, and they're like, "Well, did you check this?" And you got to say, "No, I didn't check that." Okay, well, go and check that first before we do anything. Did you check that? No, I didn't check that. Oh, well, check that first.
No, I've checked everything I know how to check. I'm Salesforce certified, so it's.
I think
they don't seem to read
it worked before and it didn't work, and this is not the first time that this has happened. You never heard of a cause. It was just like file under one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be one of those things, and I'm not able to get any answers from Salesforce definitively because they keep saying, well, grant us login access, and even though I say you already have login access in the case comment posted earlier. I don't think they read them, so I'm just gonna have to wait. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Suzanne?
Yeah.
Guys, I hate to cut this short
Yeah.
here, but I've got to drop.
This is Jackie. Let me give you one last piece of advice. Get in touch with your CSM, because now this is an issue of you guys not having your data backed up for X period of time. Escalate it to them, put the ownership on them, and get them to take responsibility for the case not being resolved.
I did that, and nothing really. Our account executive said, yes, I escalated it. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more time with this. I'll throw something up there on the community. Maybe someone somewhere has had this problem, but as of now, I have not had a data export for over a month.
Yeah, definitely throw that out in the community, and feel free to cross-post that over to the MVP Office Hours group, and we can, we can crowdsource that and see what we can find out.
I appreciate the troubleshooting help, though. I will take a look at the next email that won't work, and well, I'll pay attention to the time frame and everything else.
When you take that screenshot, make sure the date time on your laptop or whatever is in the screenshot. I mean, you want to have fingerprints, DNA. You want to have everything to be like, look, here's a screenshot of the email opened with the date, time it was opened. I'm inside my 48-hour window, and the link was dead as a bucket of fried chicken. It's broken.
Yeah, I did that already in my open case.
That's
I'll do it
what
again.
I do. That's the perfect way to submit a case.
Yes, I know. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
All right. Here.
Thank you.